that you're not able to function normally at home as you perhaps once used to, and actually someone to help talk you through that, show you and guide you.
Just 5 minutes ago, a quiet but deeply emotional decision was made behind closed doors, one that has left many stunned and searching for answers. Prince William and Catherine, known for their strength and calm presence, are now facing a moment that has changed everything behind palace walls. For days, there were subtle signs. A shift in expressions. A silence that felt heavier than usual. Appearances that seemed carefully measured, almost guarded. Now, insiders say those moments were not coincidence. They were the result of a decision that weighed heavily on both of them. This was not a choice made in haste. It was the kind of decision that comes after long nights, private conversations, and emotions that words struggle to explain. Those close to the couple reveal that this moment touched something deeply personal, not just as future leaders, but as parents, partners, and human beings. What makes this moment even more heartbreaking is the way it was handled, quietly, privately, without seeking sympathy or attention. William and Catherine are said to have placed responsibility above comfort, choosing what they believed was necessary even if it came at an emotional cost. Inside the palace, the atmosphere reportedly changed almost instantly. Staff sensed it. Family members felt it. A heavy silence filled the space, the kind that follows life-altering decisions. And now, as the world slowly begins to sense something has shifted, one question echoes louder than all others. What decision did William and Catherine make behind closed doors, and why does it feel so heartbreaking? The silence inside the palace that morning felt heavier than usual. It wasn't the kind that comes from routine or calm, but the kind that settles when something unspoken hangs in the air. Behind closed doors, Prince William and Catherine were facing a decision that would quietly reshape everything. Not for the world to see, but for their family to live with. Those closest to them say the mood had been shifting for days. Subtle changes were noticed long before words were spoken. A pause that lasted a little too long. A glance filled with unspoken understanding. Even the warmth they usually carried seemed tempered by something deeper, more personal. It wasn't fear. It was awareness. What many don't realize is how carefully this moment was approached. This was not an impulsive choice. It came after long conversations late into the night, after weighing responsibility against emotion, and after facing truths that cannot be ignored once they surface. William and Catherine were not acting as public figures in that moment. They were simply two people protecting what matters most. Inside those walls, time seemed to slow. Every thought carried weight. Every word mattered. The decision they faced wasn't about headlines or appearances. It was about balance between duty and devotion, between what the world expects and what the heart quietly asks for. Those close to the couple say, the emotional weight was undeniable. Catherine, known for her grace, showed a depth of emotion that rarely reaches the public eye. There was strength in her composure, but also vulnerability. William, too, carried the weight heavily. His silence spoke louder than any statement ever could. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a moment of humanity. As discussions continued, both understood that some choices, once made, change the course of everything that follows. There are moments in life when standing still feels impossible, yet moving forward feels just as daunting. This was one of them. Behind the scenes, trusted voices offered support, but the final decision rested solely with them. No advisors, no ceremony, just honesty and heart. The kind of moment that defines not only leadership but character. The atmosphere inside the palace shifted subtly afterward. Those who passed through the corridors sensed it instantly, a quiet heaviness mixed with resolve. Conversations became softer, steps slower. Everyone seemed to understand that something meaningful had just occurred. What makes this moment especially emotional is how deeply personal it was. This wasn't about public duty or expectations. It was about family, protection, and choosing what feels right even when it's difficult. The kind of choice that leaves a lasting mark, not because of its visibility, but because of its emotional cost. Sources say William took time alone afterward, reflecting in silence. Not out of doubt, but out of care. He understands that leadership isn't only about guiding others, it's about knowing when to protect those closest to you. That awareness carries a quiet strength, one that doesn't demand attention. Catherine, too, showed remarkable calm. Her strength has always lived in empathy, and in this moment, it shone through more than ever. She stood firm not with words, but with presence. A reminder that sometimes support doesn't need explanation, it simply needs to exist. Outside the palace, the world remained unaware of the emotional shift taking place within. Life moved on as usual, while something deeply personal settled into place behind closed doors. This contrast made the moment even more powerful. So much was happening, yet so little was visible. Those closest to the situation say this decision wasn't made out of fear, but out of love. Love for family, love for stability, love for the future. It was a quiet act of courage, the kind that doesn't make noise, but changes everything. As the day went on, a sense of calm slowly replaced the heaviness. Not because the challenge had passed, but because it had been faced. There is a certain peace that comes from choosing honesty over avoidance. Even when the path ahead is uncertain, what lies ahead remains unclear. But one thing is certain, this moment will be remembered not for what was said publicly, but for what was decided privately. It marks a turning point, subtle, but deeply meaningful. And as night fell, the palace lights glowed softly, holding within them a story few would ever fully know. A story of love, responsibility, and the quiet strength it takes to make heartbreaking decisions when no one else is watching. As the hours passed, the weight of the decision continued to settle quietly within the palace walls. Nothing outwardly appeared different, yet everything felt changed. There was a stillness that couldn't be ignored, not heavy with fear, but filled with reflection. It was the kind of silence that follows a moment when hearts have spoken more loudly than words ever could. Prince William moved through the day with calm composure, but those who know him well sensed the depth beneath his steady exterior. His thoughts lingered on what had been decided, not with regret but with awareness. Every choice carries consequences, and he understood that some paths, once taken, reshape the future in ways that cannot be reversed. Catherine remained close, her presence offering quiet reassurance. She did not need to speak much. Her strength has always lived in understanding, in the gentle ability to be present without needing to fill the silence. Together, they shared moments of stillness, not out of uncertainty, but out of connection. In those moments, there was clarity. Behind the scenes, trusted aides noticed the emotional shift. The atmosphere felt softer, more human. Protocol mattered less than compassion. Conversations slowed and people listened more carefully to one another. It was as though the palace itself had exhaled, acknowledging the emotional weight carried by those at its heart. What makes this moment so profound is not the decision itself, but the way it was made with care, humility, and deep respect for what truly matters. There was no rush, no pressure to perform or explain, only a quiet understanding that some moments must be lived privately before they can ever be understood publicly. Those closest to the situation describe a growing sense of unity. Differences faded into the background as shared purpose took center stage. Family members leaned into one another, offering silent reassurance. In times like these, words often fall short, but presence speaks volumes. Outside the palace, life continued as usual. People went about their days unaware that something deeply emotional had unfolded just beyond their view. And yet many would later say they felt something, an unexplainable shift, a sense that something meaningful had taken place. Perhaps it was intuition, or perhaps it was the quiet ripple of human emotion reaching beyond walls and titles. William's thoughts often returned to responsibility, not as a burden, but as a guiding force. He understands that leadership is not about being unshaken, but about standing firm even when emotions run deep. This moment, though painful, strengthened his resolve to lead with empathy rather than distance. Catherine's influence remained steady. Her calm presence offered balance, reminding everyone that strength can be gentle. She has always understood that true resilience doesn't demand attention. It simply exists, quietly shaping everything around it. As evening approached, the atmosphere softened further. There was no sense of panic, only acceptance. Acceptance that some decisions change the rhythm of life but do not diminish its meaning. In fact, they often deepen it. The emotional weight of the day did not disappear, but it transformed. What once felt heavy became grounding. What once felt uncertain became purposeful. This shift did not come from answers, but from connection, the kind that forms when people face difficult truths together. Those who observed from within the palace spoke of a quiet dignity filling the halls. There was no sadness in the air, only reflection, a sense that something important had been honored, even if few would ever fully understand it. The choice made behind closed doors was never meant to be dramatic. It was meant to be right. And in that simplicity lies its power. Sometimes the most meaningful decisions are the ones made without applause, without explanation, and without expectation. As night settled in, there was a feeling of peace, fragile but real. A reminder that even in moments of emotional gravity, there is room for hope. Hope rooted not in certainty, but in trust. Trust in one another. Trust in the path ahead. Trust that even when the future feels unclear, love provides direction. This moment, though private, marked a quiet turning point. It reshaped perspectives, strengthened bonds, and revealed the depth of resilience shared between two people facing life together. And as the world continued unaware, something lasting had taken hold behind those walls, a deeper understanding of what truly matters, and a renewed commitment to face whatever comes next with honesty, compassion, and unwavering unity. As time continued to move forward, something subtle yet powerful began to shift within the walls of the palace. What once felt heavy slowly transformed into something quieter, steadier, not because the weight had disappeared, but because it had been accepted. There is a kind of strength that comes when resistance fades and understanding takes its place. Prince William carried himself with calm determination, though those close to him could sense the depth beneath his composure. His thoughts often wandered inward, not in confusion, but in reflection. Moments like these have a way of reshaping priorities, reminding even the strongest individuals that vulnerability is not weakness, it is humanity. Catherine remained a constant presence beside him. Her support was not loud or dramatic. It was gentle, grounding, and unwavering. She understood that some emotions don't need fixing, they need space. In her quiet way, she offered exactly that. Her presence spoke of patience, empathy, and an unspoken promise that no burden had to be carried alone. Inside the palace, there was a noticeable change in rhythm. Conversations became more thoughtful. Movements slowed. People seemed more aware of one another, more attuned to emotion than routine. It was as though everyone understood that this was not a time for noise or spectacle, but for respect and care. Those closest to the situation describe a deep sense of unity forming. Differences faded. Titles mattered less. What remained was a shared understanding that some moments require compassion above all else. The atmosphere felt protective, almost sacred, as if everyone was instinctively guarding something fragile yet meaningful. Outside, the world continued its steady pace, unaware of the quiet transformation taking place within those walls. Yet somehow, a ripple of emotion seemed to reach beyond the palace. People spoke softly, expressed concern, and reflected on their own lives. It was a reminder that human connection often transcends distance. Even without explanation, William spent moments in quiet reflection, thinking not of duty, but of meaning. Leadership, he realized, is not defined by authority, but by the courage to face truth with honesty and heart. This realization didn't weaken him. It strengthened him in ways that cannot be measured. Catherine's calm presence remained a guiding force. Her ability to hold space without demanding attention offered comfort to everyone around her. She reminded those near her that strength can be gentle, and that grace often lives in the smallest gestures. As the hours passed, the emotional intensity softened into something steadier. The uncertainty remained, but it no longer felt overwhelming. There was a growing sense of peace, not because answers had appeared, but because acceptance had taken root. Those inside the palace began to move forward with quiet confidence. Each step, each decision carried intention. There was no rush to explain or justify. What mattered most was honoring the truth of the moment and respecting the emotions tied to it. The world beyond the gates remained unaware of the depth of what had occurred, yet many felt an unspoken shift. Perhaps it was empathy, perhaps intuition, or perhaps the simple truth that when something deeply human happens, its echo travels further than expected. This moment began to reshape perspectives. It reminded everyone involved that life is not defined solely by roles or responsibilities, but by the connections that give those roles meaning. In the stillness, clarity emerged, not as answers, but as understanding. As evening approached, the atmosphere felt calmer, more grounded. The weight that once pressed heavily had softened into resolve. There was a shared sense that whatever lay ahead, it would be faced with dignity and care. This period of quiet reflection became a turning point, not marked by announcements or declarations, but by inner growth. It was a reminder that strength is often found in softness, and that resilience can exist without noise. Those closest to the moment would later describe it as transformative, not because of what changed outwardly, but because of what shifted within. Bonds deepened. Perspectives widened. Hearts opened. And through it all, one truth remained constant: love, when paired with understanding, has the power to steady even the most uncertain paths. As the night settled in, there was peace, fragile yet real. A sense that even in moments of emotional weight, hope quietly endures. That even when the future feels unclear, the present can still be held with grace. This was not an ending nor a beginning, but a moment of becoming. A moment that would quietly shape what comes next, carrying with it the strength born from compassion, unity, and quiet courage. And as the world continued to turn, unaware of the depth of what had unfolded, one thing remained certain: this experience had left its mark, not in headlines or headlines alone, but in hearts that would carry its meaning long after the silence had passed. As the quiet hours stretched on, something gentle yet powerful settled over everything. It wasn't relief and it wasn't sorrow, it was understanding. The kind that comes when emotions are no longer resisted but accepted with honesty. Within the palace walls, there was a sense that something meaningful had shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that would last far beyond this moment. Prince William moved with a calm that spoke volumes. His strength no longer came from restraint, but from reflection. Those close to him noticed a subtle change, a deeper awareness, a softened presence. It was clear that this experience had reshaped something within him, not by breaking him, but by grounding him more firmly in who he truly is. Catherine remained by his side, steady and reassuring. Her presence carried warmth, not through words, but through understanding. She did not try to ease the weight of the moment. Instead, she helped him carry it. That quiet partnership became a source of comfort, not only for them, but for everyone around them. It reminded those nearby that real strength often shows itself in gentleness. Within the palace, the air felt different, calmer yet full of emotion. Conversations were softer, movements more thoughtful. People seemed more aware of one another, as if recognizing that they were sharing something deeply human. No one rushed. No one pushed for answers. There was respect for the space this moment required. Outside those walls, the world moved on, unaware of the emotional transformation unfolding within. And yet many felt something shift. A subtle sense of connection. A reminder that behind titles and traditions, there are hearts that feel, struggle, and endure just like everyone else. This experience quietly redefined what strength looked like. It wasn't about standing tall in the face of hardship, but about allowing vulnerability to exist without fear. It was about acknowledging that even those who appear unshakable have moments where they must pause, breathe, and simply be human. William's reflection during this time brought clarity. Leadership, he realized, is not measured by control or certainty, but by empathy and presence. It is the willingness to listen, to feel, and to move forward with honesty even when the path is uncertain. Catherine's influence remained constant, a quiet reassurance that love does not need to be allowed to be powerful. Her ability to remain composed, compassionate, and deeply present reminded everyone that support often speaks loudest in silence. As hours turned into night, a peaceful stillness filled the space. The emotional weight had not disappeared, but it no longer felt overwhelming. It had softened to something meaningful, a reminder that even the heaviest moments can carry growth within them. Those who witnessed this period would later describe it not as painful, but as profound. A time when connection deepened, when understanding replaced fear, and when humanity took center stage over expectation. There was no sense of finality, only continuation. Life would move forward, shaped quietly by what had been felt and learned. The future remained uncertain, but it no longer felt intimidating. There was confidence in the knowledge that whatever lay ahead would be met with unity and grace. In this stillness, something powerful emerged, a renewed sense of purpose rooted not in obligation but in compassion. It became clear that the most meaningful moments in life are often the quietest ones, where hearts open and truths are accepted without resistance. The world may never fully understand what unfolded during this time, and perhaps it doesn't need to. Some moments are meant to be felt, not explained. Their impact lives on in subtle ways, shaping thoughts, strengthening bonds, and guiding choices long after the moment has passed. As dawn approached, there was a sense of calm renewal. Not because everything was resolved, but because acceptance had taken hold. And within that acceptance lived hope, steady, patient, and real. This was not the end of a story, but a turning point. One that would quietly influence every step forward. A reminder that even in moments of uncertainty, there is beauty and resilience and power in compassion. And so, as the world continues its rhythm, unseen yet deeply felt, becomes part of a larger journey. A journey defined not by titles or expectations, but by the enduring strength of the human heart. In the end, what remained was not sorrow nor fear, but understanding. And in that understanding, a quiet promise endured. No matter how heavy the moment, love has the power to carry it forward.